I'll wait to escapely. Today we return with the next leg of Aeneas' journey. After celebrating funeral games for his father and pressing on, he heads to Cumae, as you can see on this map. We're very close to the end of his journey in terms of the wanderings of it. We're going to see quite a lot about what's coming up next in this next bit. At Cumae, Aeneas meets the Sibyl. She's a prophet, a priest working for Apollo, and she's going to guide Aeneas to the Underworld. A great detail about the Sibyl is that she would apparently get this urge to write down the prophecies, and had quickly covered every surface of the temple in Cumae that she could physically write on, every bit of paper and cloth around, until she started writing on leaves. Tragically, every time someone came by, the leaves would all get scattered as the wind would blow through the temple. But she would press on. She was unable to stop writing for this. When Aeneas comes, she gives him sort of like a quick little test to see if he can go down into the underworld. He's got to go into the forest outside of the temple and find a tree branch made of solid gold and bring it back. When Aeneas goes out there, he prays for help. A flock of doves sent by Venus supposedly come down and help him find it. And he climbs the tree, snaps this branch off. Apparently, it kind of clings there, and certain people have made a lot of this, like, what was it supposed to resist? Did he deserve it? In any case, he walks away with it. And as he's climbing down the tree, he sees that another one has grown in its place. Sibyl says, that's good enough for me. The fact that it grew back shows that you deserve to go there. And they make their way down. Now, there are other videos. I can link a few in the comments, in the description of the video, to show, other starts about the regions of the underworld. We're basically going to follow them closely. They make their way down through a swamp nearby, one of these dead spaces, and they make their way through the river Styx and, cross with the boatman Charon there. Charon complains about it. This is actually a really consistent bit about Charon. In every myth that he's in, when someone who's alive wants to get in his boat, he always grumbles about this. It always bugs him so much, even though presumably they're going to pay on the way back and everything too. Aeneas takes the golden branch with him. It's a sign that he's allowed to be down there. Charon recognizes it, grumbles about it, and takes them across. They pass really nasty parts of the underworld. They see Tartarus, where people are being punished. And they come to the fields of mourning, where people who commit suicide or people who die hopelessly or die of love end up. And it's there that Aeneas sees someone that he's really not expecting to see. He sees Dido, recognizes her immediately. And this is something that actually shows up in the Aeneid earlier, but I left it out so that you guys could learn at the same time as Aeneas. If Dido is down in the underworld and she didn't come the way that Aeneas did, she is dead. See, after Aeneas abandoned her the way that she did, the way that she felt, she despaired about it and was raving, stalking up and down through the palace, not sure what to do, until she told her sister Anna, who had originally told her, hey, maybe this Aeneas guy is, the right bet. She says, I know a spell that will clear him from my mind, help me forget him, and allow me to rule my kingdom again. We have to pile up all the stuff that he gave me on a funeral pyre, and we have to burn it as though Aeneas were dead, and that will help me move on from it. And so they pile up all the stuff, including that bed that someone had dragged out of Troy, and the sword and the robe from Helen, and all the other stuff that they had, found for each other over the past year there. And Dido sends everyone else away, and gets ready to light up this funeral pyre, to burn it. But as she sets fire to the base, she climbs up to the top and gets into the bed and curses the Trojans forever. She says, Aeneas has ruined her, that she doesn't want to live anymore, and that she blames him for it squarely. Doesn't buy any of these excuses about the gods. She says it's too late for her to take revenge on her own, but that she prays that her children and her descendants and her people in Carthage will forever be enemies of Aeneas and his people until the end of time. Romans reading this and scholars of history would know of Rome and Carthage's long and pugnacious history of the 3 Punic Wars that eventually end with the Romans winning. And so here we have Virgil giving sort of an explanation for this. Aeneas doesn't know all this. He's shocked to see Dido down there, and he cries, he weeps, he calls out to her, and Dido refuses to look at him. literally sees him, has this look of disgust on her face, and turns away. Doesn't even listen to him at this point down. The only even slightly optimistic thing is that down there in the fields of mourning with her is her husband, Sichaeus, who was killed before she had to leave Tyre. Aeneas weeps for a little bit, and the Sibyl picks him up off of his feet and gets him to keep going. The reason they had come down to the Underworld in the first place was to get advice from Anchises, Aeneas' father. And he's in Elysium. He's in the realm of the blessed. When Aeneas sees his father is walking again, something that Anchises hadn't been able to do since he was a young man. And Aeneas tries to hug his father 3 times, but because his father's a ghost, a shade, their arms just pass through each other. There's nothing they can do about it. Aeneas is teary and emotional for joy, and his father tells him all the stuff that like Aeneas really needs to hear at this difficult emotional point in his life. That he's proud of him, that he's doing the right, that Aeneas is doing the right thing. And Anchises shows Aeneas a vision of the future. There's something really interesting about Elysium in the way that the Greeks and Romans looked at it. If you lived a good life and you were heroic and you did great things, not just, garden variety good person, great things, you could get to Elysium. And Elysium is paradise. And the only thing that could make paradise better is getting to stay there forever. So not only do you get to be there after you're dead, but somehow you also get to be there before you were born. Aeneas sees a huge parade of people, a triumphant procession of people that he doesn't recognize that are actually his descendants. And in Virgil, he name checks these huge heroes from Roman history, like actual historical people, and alludes to an emperor bringing peace to the whole world, who Virgil is talking about, Augustus. Aeneas doesn't know who this is, but it's comforting. Anchises can't explain it. Apparently that would, endanger things. We get some ideas about like time travel literature from this. But Anchises sits Aeneas down and tells him, you're doing the right thing. You are close. It's just a few days sail up the coast to get to the Tiber River. But he warns Aeneas. He says, when you get there, you will have to fight again. This will not come peacefully. It'll be like another Trojan War, and you're going to have to fight an enemy who's like another Achilles. But if you do the right thing, you're going to win and you're going to become a great king. Remember, to be great, the rule that you have to follow and that your descendants have to follow is that you can't be like the Greeks. You need to show mercy when you defeat people. When you have to fight hard. Grind down people who would oppose you and defeat them because you are better than them. But when you do defeat them, you have to show mercy. You have to spare the conquered. You can't do to other people what the Greeks did to Troy. Invigorated from this, recovered with this great advice and getting to see his father again, Aeneas returns from the underworld. There's a great cryptic little detail that they leave through a gate that supposedly dreams leave through. And people reading the Aeneid very deeply have pondered exactly what Virgil meant by this for ages. But here we are at the end of the first half of the Aeneid. His wanderings are essentially over. And now we get the foreshadowing for the next part, that he's going to have to fight really hard. He's going to have another terrible enemy to fight. But that Aeneas should win because he's the kind of person who does the right thing. More in the next video where we start the second half of Aeneas' story. Take care.